Hey everyone, welcome to the long anticipated fourth episode of Mind Your Business, which is part of Exertis Almo's Power Hour podcast. On this episode, much like all the others, for those of you that might be new viewers, new listeners, Mind Your Business is just what the name implies. It's all about hopefully giving you tips, tricks, and pointers on how you can really keep your mind on your business, whether that is growing year over year, maybe adding a new best practice to the mix, but it's all about really helping motivate others to achieve successes. So with this episode that I like to call, a new category, we are joined by Lisa Lingo and Tom Keefe, who are category managers here at Exertis Almo. For those of you that might not be aware, category manager is a relatively newer position here at Exertis Almo, but I love it because it is just an additional layer of support for not only our sales organization, but our customers. So Lisa and Tom, thank you very, very much for joining this episode. I'm excited to talk to you because our roles have a lot of similarities. But Lisa, I want to kind of start with you and kind of put you on the spot. Explain a little bit to the audience about, in your words, what is a category manager and what do you specifically specialize in here at Exertis Almo?
Absolutely. And thanks for having me. So category managers are somewhat defined by exactly that, working inside a category where you can be more of an expert in certain areas. And for me, that's collaboration. And collaboration is used, that word's used quite often in a lot of different ways. Some of us use UC or UCC, but it really ties back to how best to suit an end user's needs so that they can collaborate efficiently with their, internal teams, customers, vendors, and the like. So a lot of what I do is help people select the right gear for huddle rooms, conference rooms, all the rooms, board rooms, and so forth, especially if they're tying in something like Microsoft Teams rooms or Zoom or something of that nature. And we can certainly go into more detail, but that gives you kind of an overall view of my focus now. And it's been about 6 months since I started this position, and it's been fantastic. So I think we're making a lot of headway.
Awesome. So key takeaway there from Lisa and for everybody listening, if you have a project that involves all the rooms, you know who to turn to here at Exertis Almo. Uh,
Anywhere.
Tom, what about you? I know your role is similar, but also a little different. So why don't you touch on that for us?
Yeah. So I'm the category manager for DirectView LED. We have, I think at current time, 13 different vendors that we sell that offer DirectView LED. So, all of that would kind of fall under my purview. It's different because I don't have different types of products like Lisa does, right? UC or collaboration, it's a category of different products that all work together, where LED is really just one technology. Now, that being said, it's a very new technology to the industry. It's something that's growing. It's something that is becoming widely adopted, but it has not been adopted by everyone yet. So there's a lot of question marks and unknowns about DirectView LED in general. So I come in and I help customers. I help our sales team to understand what their options are when it comes to DirectView LED, whether it's the technology itself, the application, the budget, maybe it's a lead time. There's a lot of different factors that go into picking the right vendor for your specific project. So I work with the salespeople and the end users and our resellers in that regard. And then I work with our vendors because they are also new to the game, and they are trying to figure out what's the best way for us to bring this new technology to market. It's not as simple as something like an LFD where you're shipping a box, right? When you ship a video wall, a DirectView LED video wall is shipping like 15, 20 boxes, right? And it's different components, and it depends. It just all depends. right? That's really the name of the game with direct LED. So I try to help the team on all different sides kind of bring everything together and make the best decision for their project.
Okay. So I love that explanation. And where I said Lisa is all the rooms, with everybody out there listening, with Tom, it all depends. So any project where it all depends, you can come to Tom.
Yeah.
But I think, I love both of your explanations. And for those of you that don't know, I am now also the category manager for our pro audio division here at Exertis Almo. And a lot of what you both said, it absolutely resonates. What I love about the category manager role is it gives the three of us a chance to truly be brand agnostic and really recommend the best solution for the customer. And we're not being forced into one avenue over the other. It's really just, kind of polling the customer, polling our sales team, and figuring out what exactly is needed, and then ultimately picking out the best solution for it. So I absolutely love that. And it's, like I said, I think it's such a great added layer that our customers can get. Tom, to kind of keep you on the proverbial soapbox for a little bit, one of the things that you said in the very beginning is about dvLED being a newer technology and kind of learning as it goes along. So from an audio perspective, it's kind of like what AV over IP was, and maybe still continues to be, where we're trying to get more adoption from integrators and end users alike. So can you touch a little bit on what it's like really overseeing a new technology that's early on in adoption? I know from the very, very little I know about dvLED and what I see at our E4 experiences, I know that, there's more being brought into the marketplace, but what is it like for you? And do you see any challenges that you've experienced trying to increase that adoption and really put it more in the mainstream at the forefront?
Sure. Well, some of the challenges are the technology continues to evolve rapidly, right? I will liken it to, I've been in the industry a long time. This is my, I think, 22nd year in the industry. And when I came in for LFD, it was plasma. Everyone was buying plasma. No one was really talking about LCD. It was just coming out. I remember Sharp was releasing their Aquas series at the time, right? And it was super expensive. And, we didn't know much about it. But eventually, LCD started to take over plasma, and you don't see plasma anymore, right? So managing the kind of switch from one technology to another is a lot of what I see for direct LED. In terms of the display technology, there's SMD, there's IMD, and there's chip on board. What I'm seeing right now is a lot more transition to the chip on board from SMD. I'm not going to explain what those two technologies are, right?
We would be here for another few months if we talked about
all but it's the same thing, right? So chip on board is just the next best thing in direct LED. It was always much more expensive. It was more limited. It was harder to get. And now, because there's greater adoption and advances in technology, the prices come down. So now folks are trying to transition over to that technology over the other. So kind of managing that transition is a challenge. The other challenge I see is aspect ratios. So 16:9 has been, and we saw this too with projectors. I came into the industry, I was selling 4:3. Then HD came out, so we were selling 16:9. And then there was 16:10, which was kind of weird for business, right? So now it's all been 16:9, but now we're seeing new applications where it's 32:9, 21:9 for MTR. Microsoft Teams rooms is becoming very popular. So finding different solutions that are going to be able to cover all those different aspect ratios and resolutions. Some vendors cover one, while another may not. So you need to know which vendors to look to for those. That's a challenge. All-in-one versus custom. All-in-one is just like it sounds. It's just like buying a TV or buying a large flat panel LCD display, only bigger, right? So LCDs top out at 100. Anything over that you're looking at LED, and now they offer all-in-ones for 110 inch, 135, 165, 220. So that's easy. But sometimes an all-in-one isn't going to be appropriate for a given application because they need maybe a different pixel pitch than is offered in the all-in-one, or a different resolution, right? Maybe they need different controller software or controller hardware. So these types of things, as they relate to direct VLED, are just some challenges because it's a new technology that you're managing on the day-to-day.
Okay, and that makes sense. So if you could pinpoint one thing, if somebody is truly on the fence about whether this is something they should really be looking further into, is there a good entry point for them, or is there a good best practice that you would always recommend somebody take at the initial going if they're exploring whether dvLED is the proper fit or not?
100%. So there's some vendors that we offer who some require, but most just offer a free guided installation service when you purchase the product. So installing a direct VLED wall is not like installing a normal display. It's a much more involved process. There's power and data to consider running to the display. You have to have appropriate back structure. And then there's just a learning curve when it comes to, installing these massive digital Lego sets, right, on a wall, and running the data and daisy chaining and all that. So there are some vendors that offer very affordable, sometimes free of charge, on-site guided installation services. And if someone is new to LED, I'm always going to steer them towards those vendors that offer that, because it's free training on site, right? They have an expert tech come on site and they train that integrator's team on how to install the direct VLED, how to configure the controller, and how to get it up and running and commission the wall. So I will always steer them in that direction.
That's awesome. And I will say, I mean, coming personally, and like I kind of alluded to before with our E4 experience events and even InfoComm, obviously, if you are completely unfamiliar with dvLED, those are perfect events for you to be to or come to, because I think it might have been one of our last stops in Boston, which, by the way, we're coming up to Boston again in September. And I actually saw one of our manufacturers, as you referred to it, as almost like a Lego set, and watching them assemble it. And I just kind of stood back and watched and thought, I had no idea that's even how it was done. So for somebody completely green to not just dvLED, but the video side of the business, it was really cool getting to see that. So yeah, that's definitely a must-have on my part. Well, great. Thank you, Tom, for that. And I'll come back to you in a quick minute. Lisa, my question for you, you and I do, pardon the pun, collaborate a lot as far as those types of spaces, as far as all the rooms are concerned. My question for you, because you mentioned MTR, for those of you that don't know, Microsoft Teams rooms. My question for you is a couple of points. One, what is it like for you starting a project from scratch and having somebody, so we joke about all the rooms and all the different types of spaces, but what is it like for you when an opportunity comes through? And I've seen some of these, and essentially it's, hey, my customer has this type of room, what do you suggest? What are some like boxes that you're trying to check? What are some things you're looking for? And as it relates to MTR, because the hardware side and the licensing side are two totally different, which you and I can speak on, but how do you decide what's needed, what isn't, when to add a license, when not to? Can you just talk a little bit about your thought process and how you put that together?
Absolutely. And one size doesn't fit all. And that's a big part of why I'm in this role. We have a lot of customers that come to us and literally just say, I've got this box, right? They've got this room empty. They're want to build it out. And the reality is we have a lot of questions, and it's great if they can work with me so that even if I'm not the expert at every avenue, I can go to all of them, collaborate with my peers, and make sure that we put something together. But there are definitely things we need to know. And quite often people will come to us and they already have the software solution they're using. Then maybe they already have Teams rooms or Zoom or something of that nature, or maybe they're using a mix, which happens quite often. If they're not and they want to do that, obviously we can provide that for them. So we do have licensing for Microsoft Teams rooms. But if they've already got that in place, and that's perfectly fine, I'm here to help them by digging into what they want out of it. What all is this room going to be used for? How large is this room? How is it set up with seating? Is there gear already in there that we need to integrate with? That's important, right? Not a lot of products play well with each other, but some don't. So I need to know what's in there, what they plan to do with the room, what are all the applications, so that we then can determine what's best to recommend for the room. I deal a lot with many of our PTZ camera options. And, those aren't new to the market, but they're ever changing. We've seen a lot of growth in that area. We've seen a lot of new technology. AI is talked about a lot. So artificial intelligence, not only does Microsoft talk about that a lot, but a lot of our cameras actually use AI to offer much more feature rich, functionality so that you get the best experience when doing these virtual meetings. And while these types of meetings have been going on and on for years, they have become more prevalent in the last few years, especially once COVID hit, right? So you saw more and more people. And while to a sense we've gotten back to, I guess, a normal, and some people are back in the office, the reality is a lot of people are doing hybrid work. So when you've got, customers, and you've got sales reps, and you've got vendors that are spread out across the nation or the globe, you need a way to connect, much like this, and be able to share information. And you want to make sure you've got the right audio and the right camera. And so I have just a list of questions that I will ask the vendor or the end user, so that we can, build out the proper solution. And really it can be simple, and sometimes it can be very complicated, just depending on what all of their needs are. But I definitely work with all the experts inside of Exertis Almo to make sure that we're, hitting all the marks.
Yeah, and I love that last point, because I think it goes for all three of us. Is, we have our business development team, which all of us are still a part of the business development team, but the category manager role does exactly what you just said, which is, Tom's talked about all the different dvLED manufacturers. I know I work with a lot of audio companies. You work with a lot of different audio and video companies on your side. And I think that is a big value statement for the category manager position here, is that we're kind of quarterbacking that entire situation. Like we're taking the skeleton of an opportunity and saying, okay, well, I'm going to behind the scenes pull in this manufacturer or this BDM, and we're going to kind of, put everything together, call out the plays, and then ultimately turn it into a bill of materials and hopefully a closed opportunity. So I love that point. Absolutely. My one thing, and not, I almost just want to get your honest opinion on this, because I have thoughts on this as well, because again, you and I share some similarities on the collaboration side with licensing and hardware. So you reference COVID, you reference, that kind of that upswing that we saw with teleconferencing and collaboration. The common question that I got, not only my wife, who was teaching remotely at the time here at home, but even now, the question comes up: why should somebody come through the Pro AV channel, through an integrator, through a distributor, for the licensing and all of that, when you could source something for free, like a free license? What value do you see, mainly on the licensing side?
There's a few things, but one thing that stands out for sure is the support. So you're definitely going to have support, and with us even. I mean, and if we can't give you the support you need when you're having an issue or have questions or need training, we'll get it for you. But the other thing is just functionality and features. I mean, features and functionality are going to be much broader and in depth if you have a license that you're paying for. I hate to say you get what you pay for, but you do. And if you're one person that has your own business and you're just getting started out, maybe that free license works for you for a little while. But as your business grows and it becomes, we look at corporate business and so forth, they're not using free. It's not going to fit the bill. It doesn't have the scope that you're going to need. I mean, often those are timed out after 30 minutes, or they only hold so many people in a call, just even simple things like that. So you really want to look at having a more professional environment in which you're doing your Teams calls or Zoom calls or whatever you choose to use.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head, because I will tell you, I guess I was fortunate here at Exertis Almo early on, where my license that I had access to was a pro grade license and didn't have a time limit. And then I switched to somebody else's, and I remember the call just ending abruptly, and I thought, what happened to this? But what my wife used upstairs to remote teach, I can promise all of you out there listening, is not what Exertis Almo uses on a daily basis for our Teams license. So to Lisa's point, there's different feature sets, and for a lot of you, it is a free license that you need, based on size and scope of your company and what you're using it for. But yeah, that's a perfect point. I appreciate that. So I guess we're coming up here at the time of the call of the episode that I absolutely love, because Lisa, you and I have even talked about running this week, and I enjoy sharing those stories with people, because I get a lot of crooked eyes, like, this guy actually goes running and enjoys it. I will tell you, I absolutely hate running, but if I didn't do it, I feel even more miserable during the day. So yes, I do run. And one of the things, again, for first time listeners and everybody that's watching this episode, I call this segment the finish line. The reason why I call it the finish line is because when you're running a race and you're extremely tired, no matter how long the distance is or how short it is, when you see the finish line and you see all the spectators lined up and they're cheering you along, and the announcers over the loudspeaker calling out names of people that finished, there is no better feeling than that. It's so good of a feeling that I always pause my music on my phone. I take my AirPods out because I want to experience it. I want to hear it, because crossing that finish line means that you achieved something and you added something to your life that you didn't have previously. So I call this segment of the podcast the finish line, because I definitely like to put my guests on the spot a little bit. And Tom, we'll start with you. What is one tip, best practice, success that you've seen that you want to pass on to others that's going to help our listeners and viewers cross the proverbial finish line this year, to achieve success in their lives?
I'm going to kind of steal from our leader, Dan Smith.
That is, Dan, if you're listening, we love your motivational messages. So I don't think they're trademarked, though. So Tom, you're safe.
They're trademarked. But what he started doing is he sends out, usually on a Sunday, I've noticed, a note that says to be intentional, right? And he recommends that we pick 3 things, or a short list of things that we can just be proactive about, and make sure that we're doing to grow our business or to help us move forward in achieving more of our kind of intermediate term goals, right? Not just the day-to-day of fighting the day off, right? And all the things that come at us. But what I found is, if I just have a few of those things that I can write down and I can just say, this week I want to get these 3 things done. This week one of them was a podcast, right? So we're doing it now. But if I can just get these 3 things done this week that are outside of the day to day, then that is going to help me to ultimately achieve my goals long term. And that's what I've noticed has happened. After a few weeks, a couple of months, you just notice things just start getting checked off. Boxes and projects that you had on the list just start getting checked off because at the beginning of the week, one of those things might be, focus on this phase of this long-term project that I'm working on, and if I can just focus on those 3 things, it number one, keeps me focused and dialed in to my task, which is to grow the business. Right. And it helps me to not get caught up in the trap of just taking the day as it comes, right? When you have so much coming at you as you do, when I have 13 different vendor lines and, lots of customers asking questions, lots of sales reps asking questions, lots of vendors that I need to speak to on a daily basis, all of that can really take up a lot of time. So just being intentional with those few things throughout the week and writing them down, that's been a big boon for me.
I like it. And thank you for including podcast in that, because this was hard trying to schedule this, and then all of us are moving around.
It was hard trying to get on for some of us.
Yeah. I was, it was a 50-50 chance of this happening today, but I appreciate you for joining. Lisa, try your best to follow that up. That was a good one, but what's your finish line? What's your tip or best back?
Before I get into my tip, I want to be clear that I just walk really fast, and my finish line is every day in the morning. My finish line is just the front door.
That's ahead of everybody else, right? Sitting on the couch or walking, I respect either. So go ahead.
For me, my tip is simply use your resources. I think that, and that goes, I do it and I've had to learn to do it more. But that goes for everyone, us internally, no matter if you're in leadership or not, if you're, an end user or a integrator, whatever the case may be, use your resources. There is ever-changing technology. People, are likely to know something that you don't. Why put yourself through a ton of research and time when you can reach out to the resources you have, regardless if that's someone on this call, a peer like our business development managers, but use your resources because it's going to help you be successful and get to that finish line faster and more efficiently.
I love that, because a quick story, for everybody out there, that when I started in 2017, I will tell you, whether you're new or seasoned in Pro AV, it's very easy to get overwhelmed by the sheer number of options, the sheer number of manufacturers and model numbers and technologies, and knowing where to start and how to, kind of choose anything and make a decision can be difficult. And to Lisa's point, using the resources on hand are essential. And special shout out to a lot of our audio manufacturers, for being my personal resources when I started. And a good friend of mine, Dave Tewksbury over at Harman, once said to me, he said, and for those of you that know Tewks, you can probably picture his voice in your head right now. He said, brother, that's what we're here for. And that really rings true, not just for the category managers, not just for the vendors, our business development team, our services development team. Like, there are tons of resources out there to help any of you try to make the proper decision, because that's what we're all here to do, is just reach that collective success together. So yes, compliments on that, Lisa. That was a good one. All right. So with that, folks, that brings us to the conclusion of episode 4. I really enjoyed this one. This was always a good talk with you guys. And then again, like I referenced, we got 2 more E4 stops coming up in the fall. We will be in Boston on September 10th, and then followed up by Anaheim on October 8th. So please, anybody that wants to come out to the E4, it's a great learning experience, a great time with the vendors and the Exertis Almo team. And yeah, all three of us will be there. So it can't possibly be a bad day. Thank you to everybody. Be sure to like and subscribe to this YouTube channel. Check out all the podcast episodes that are coming out now on the Exertis Almo Power Hour, and we will see you next time. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Rob.
Thank you.